I hate seeing you like this, so I'm flexing my eyes real hard to keep from crying. It's okay. We can still have a normal conversation. So, how's the food?
The Cyclops will drown you in your overwatered lawns.
Oh, David. Could be worse. You guys could be a total power failure.
Eat glass.
It's the Al Travis Show. We get him in here once a week. Missed him last week. Had a lot of fun, but we're glad he's back. He's the president of the American Experiment. He's John Hinderaker. John, how are you, sir?
Doing just great, Al.
Good. I don't want to make this, because this hits people. This is going to hit people hard. Day after tomorrow, SNAP shuts off because federal government is shut down. And this is going to hurt people. I don't want to make it seem trivial because I have another comment on it in a second. But my first comment to you is, who's winning the PR on this shutdown, and how long do you think this thing can last? Because the real push comes to shove as these checks stop showing up. Your thoughts on, the Republicans must think they are, and the Democrats must think they are.
Well, I don't know. You look at polling. Generally speaking, people answer all questions the same way. So
Yeah.
If you're a Republican, you're telling the pollster it's the Democrats' fault. If you're a Democrat, you're telling the pollster it's the Republicans' fault. One interesting piece of polling I saw was that 51% of Democrats want the shutdown to continue. Republicans don't want to continue. Independents don't want it to continue, but a majority of Democrats like the shutdown and want it to continue. And so I think the Democrats in the Senate feel like they're doing what their base wants in shutting the government down. And I guess, we'll find out in November whether the voters care, and if so, who they hold responsible. The Democrats shut down the government by filibustering the continuing resolution. There's no mystery.
Yeah.
We got, 54 votes, I think? But
Yeah.
I think the Democrats had 45 votes, enough to sustain a filibuster. And since then, the Republicans have voted 13 times to reopen the government, and the Democrats have voted 13 times to keep it shut down. So it's not, what's happening here is really not a mystery.
See, you say that, John, but you pay attention, and I'm not ripping everybody. People got lives to do. They got kids to get to school and all the rest. What they hear on TV, what they hear on other radio shows, is that the Republicans own the House and the Senate and the presidency. They are the ones shutting the government down. You have to have some sort of physics behind our physics.
Well, of course, Al,
social studies.
Look, Democratic Party representatives on television, and you and I know that that's what most of them are. They can say whatever they want, but the fact is the continuing resolution passed the House, which the Republicans do indeed control, and a majority voted for it in the Senate. Every Republican voted to keep the government open. Every Republican voted to keep the government open, but this is a bill that can be filibustered. And so you need 60 votes, not 51 votes. And because the Democrats, they weren't 100% united behind the filibuster. 3 of them crossed over to vote to keep the government open. But I think they have 45 votes in the Senate that want the government shut down. So the Republicans don't control the Senate.
No, I get you, and I get that, but you have to have that, that lesson behind you, civics lesson, to know that, because you're only hearing what you want to hear, and like you say, these people on TV, it's theirs to lose. Anyway, on the subject of the shutdown, 440,000, and you might take away my conservative card here. I'm putting it at risk. 440,000 Minnesotans will start losing SNAP benefits. Yeah, according to the report yesterday. The other thing that came out yesterday is Minnesota's revenue was up $960 million compared to what they forecasted that came in. We have a fully stocked, and I think it's $6 billion in our rainy day fund. Call me nuts, and maybe they can't do it, maybe you can tell me that. I would step up if I was the governor and say, we're going to pay those SNAP benefits as long as we can until the government gets back up, and we'll sue the government to get the money back if we can. We may lose it. But there's no reason with that kind of money. We're talking almost $7 billion lying around a rainy day fund. This is rainy day for the poor folks. I don't know that I'm not stepping up and paying for it. You taking my Republican conservative card away? I don't see it.
Not for that, Al. Not for that.
Okay.
So I got a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, that is an idea that's too good, right? It's too good for it to happen, because if Tim Walz and his colleagues actually cared about feeding poor people as opposed to making political points, they would do that, right? But they're not going to do it. The other thing, though, Al, that I would like to know is what was that number? Was it 440,000 that you said?
440,000.
Why do we have 440,000 Minnesotans on food stamps? I would like to know more about that. How many did we have on food stamps 10 years ago? Do you know that number? I don't.
I don't, but you have people in your organization can figure that. It comes out to like 1 in 8 Americans are getting SNAP. 1 in 8. I turned to my wife when they said that on the news, and I said, how many people do you know? What do you mean? Do you know 100 people? You know 200 people? How many people do you know? And how many are on food stamps? And I said, is it 1 in every 8 walk down the hallways? And she was actually stunned. That is a huge number of humans. It's a
huge number. We have a booming economy. Times are good. As you say, tax revenues are flowing in. That's not a problem. I think more people should be asking the question, why do we have 1/8 of the American population on food stamps? And who are they? What's going on here? I mean, why in the past, when the economy was good, you didn't have that many people on welfare. And if there was a recession or something, okay, now you have more people unemployed, you have more people on welfare. But, that's not happening now. And still, 1/8 of Americans are on food stamps. I think when this shutdown blows over, which it has to eventually, I would like to see more discussion about what's going on here.
Well, we'll do it. We'll have that discussion. I got to go to break. I want to go a little early. Not that you and I have not talked fraud enough, but as soon as you think we hit to the bottom of the fraud barrel, whole new level. That's like the basement of the barrel. We've got more to talk about. Our fine governor brought it up yesterday. We'll talk about it with John Hinderaker with the American Experiment right after this.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Hey, Brian, what do you call a lobbyist with a sense of humor?
Me?
Close. Momentum advocacy.
We help clients get real results at the Capitol with strategy, relationships, and just enough charm to make it fun.
From policy wins to media spots, we've got your back.
Nonprofits, businesses, coalitions, we've helped them all.
And we do it with nearly 90 years of combined experience.
Momentum advocacy.
As always, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more about our team at momentum-advocacy.com.
don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on The Al Travis Show.
I've got him, John Hinderaker, the American Experiment. We talk fraud a lot. The American Experiment is on the front end of all this as far as keeping people informed. Glon did another great article on it, by the way. I don't know if you've even got to see it yet this morning. Bill Glon of your organization. The story yesterday, and I bring it back a little further, John. Tom Hauser has Governor Walz on. He wants your vote, and they bring up fraud. And Hauser asks, you think there's going to be more? Will there be more coming? And the governor with this, there probably will be. These are organized crime people, yada, yada. And then yesterday, he literally comes out and says he's hired a third-party group, Optum. Don't know him. Somebody should check him out. Optum, to come in and go over 14 high-risk Medicaid services that they are pausing for 90 days because there's a substantial amount of what looks like could be fraud. He knew that when he said that to Tom. He knew it was coming out, and here we are. So these are 14 newbies. Here you go. This is the one we talked about last week. This is 14 Medicaid programs that they all suspect fraud in. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the third-party auditor that they've hired is Optum, which is one of the major units of United Health Group, I believe. Very reputable organization. And they're auditing payments, looking to see if there could be some fraud going on. Well, I think we all know the answer to that question. Billions of dollars have gone out the door. I'm not talking about wasteful spending, which we see every day in St. Paul. I'm talking about crime. I'm talking about theft. I'm talking about criminal fraud. Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson says billions of dollars the taxpayers have been defrauded out of during the Tim Walz administration. How long has Walz been the governor? Is it
7 years? Yeah.
7 years in January, and all of this has happened during the 7 years that Tim Walz has been governor. And now he's running for a third term. And now with the election coming up in a year, Walz apparently wants to clean house a little bit here.
Well, throw open the window and say, "Oh, I'm shocked." Let me ask you this, because we talk waste, fraud, and abuse. Waste is one thing. Your Golden Turkey Awards, when you put down, some bus stop where $65 million and no one parks there, the park, that's waste, and it's ridiculous for us to do this. This is a whole nother level this is strictly stealing. This is literally taken, and it isn't stealing in that we set it up so that people can walk in and take the money out the door in wheelbarrows. I mean, we don't make it very difficult. But I think
the checks. They don't have to bring their own wheelbarrows. We write them checks. I mean, Minnesota, without a doubt, Al, is the most corrupt state in the United States. There's no other state in America where the state government has just cooperated, really, in crime of this nature.
Let me ask you this, though. So he goes and gets Optum. All right. Okay. If they're a great organization, great. I didn't know them. Fine. How is it that we have an OLA? Under Human Services, we have an Inspector General that has to be, under Human Services itself. You have an Attorney General who's supposed to take care of bad guys. Why do we circumvent all of those people? Why did those people not come up with any of this? Is the problem that we're going to look into this and find out a whole lot of people weren't doing their job?
Well, Tim Walz and his administration were not opposed to this. They were facilitators. As you know, Al, we've got Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, on tape. Someone surreptitiously taped a meeting that he had late in the day. This is 2 weeks before the FBI raids that broke the Feeding Our Future scandal wide open. 2 weeks before the FBI raids, Keith Ellison met with 4 or 5 people who were affiliated with Feeding Our Future and in some cases participating in the fraud. And they were complaining that the Department of Education was starting to crack down on them. And they attributed it to racism. Right?
Of course.
And Keith Ellison was right there with them. He was saying, "Oh, yeah, we've seen this before. I've had to make phone calls and stop the racists in state government." And he says he's going to go to bat for them. Right.
No.
And a few days after that, some of them make contributions to his campaign and his son's political campaign. Yeah. And then a few days after that, the FBI raids. So right up until the end, not only was the Attorney General's office not doing anything about the fraud, Keith Ellison was vowing to help the fraudsters.
Yeah. And I can't think they didn't know about it. Here's one that I want to separate from the rest. The state has officially received federal approval now, according to KARE 11, for that Minnesota Housing Stabilitative Services debacle. They can terminate that. The federal government said, go ahead, because there's so much crime in it. And basically what it was is you could sell the state government. You wouldn't talk to homeless guy Al, and you talk to him for like 80 hours, and you pay me $70. I just made money. I didn't have to get you off the streets. I just had to talk about it. They're closing that down. This is wonderful. I think this is wonderful. However, Department of Human Services announced plans to redesign and relaunch the program to include some stronger fraud prevention. Sir, what did the program ever do? Send the money right to the guy off the street so he can go rent a hotel room. They send it to Al to go talk to the guy about his homeless issue. Seems like we're just creating our own problem. Now it's closed, and they're already talking about opening it up. What?
That's an amazing one, Al, because after that program got shut down, it was said, and I don't remember now whether it was Joe Thompson, the assistant U.S. attorney, or somebody inside the walls administration, but the statement was made that there was zero legitimate spending in that program.
That was the U.S. attorney.
Single dollar was fraudulent, but they still want to keep doing it. You know, it's amazing.
It's just almost tough to believe, and I'll throw one more last one because we're not going to get the last thing. The other one is, according to KSTP, a well-known Minnesota nonprofit collected millions of dollars in state grants. They continued to get the state grants even after its board chair was charged in massive Medicaid fraud, according to Channel 5. So even when we find the bad guys, we are still too scared to do anything about it, that we just keep sending the checks. You have lawyers on your team. You tell me Governor Walz sees it, he goes, Ellison, can we stop it or can we not? Is it legal to stop it if the guy's being charged with Medicaid fraud to stop the checks? If it isn't, we need a new law. It's crazy.
Well, but Al, I think this is official policy inside the Walz administration. So one of the things that we've seen over and over again is a nonprofit will be kicked out of one program, child care assistance, for example, for committing fraud in that program, but they still are participating, for example, in Feeding Our Future. Yeah. And so, you would think that if an organization is found to be committing fraud in one government program, you see these same organizations over, that they would be disqualified from all state government programs. But no, that's not how it works.
Now we got 14 more of them we're talking about today. I think it's fraud overload. I think the average duck just can't believe it. There's got to be something more to it. The governor thinks he can be governor with this kind of track record. Ellison thinks he can continue to be the AG. Is there a shot with this kind of, I call it Chinese water torture, just boom, 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 boom every day? And that's probably a racist comment. It's what we called it as a kid, thumping your head, that every day you finally just get too used to it. You're just numb to it.
I don't know, Al. In any other state, you would not see senior officials in the state government running for re-election with this kind of a track record. In Minnesota, I don't know. Minnesota voters are very odd. And obviously, Tim Walz and Keith Ellison think they can somehow put these years of criminal fraud behind them and get elected again. I don't know. I guess we'll find out a year from next month.
All right, I got 1 minute. I want to talk about a couple things you've got going on. I don't want to miss it. You have White Bear Lake's YLC Brews and Booze Young Leaders Council Halloween party. That's coming up today. Which, by the way,
that is tomorrow. This afternoon at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8. If our listeners haven't registered, they can just show up, and it's some nominal cost you can pay at the door. But this is in White Bear Lake, and it is at the Minnesotan on 4th Street in White Bear Lake. This is American Experiment's Young Persons Group, the Young Leaders Council, and it's going to be a fun party.
And Max Reimer and Elliot Engine are going to be there, and those are both really fun human. We have them on the show. I like them both. Very articulate, very good, and young. Well, everybody's young when you get my age, but young guys. It's going to be a good party. 5 to 8 o'clock tonight, the Minnesotan Room, White Bear Lake. I thank you for coming on, sir. Appreciate you doing it.
Always great to be with you, Al.
He's John Hinderaker, the American Experiment.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts."